On today's video, we're going to be talking about SIC codes, SIC, SIC codes, when you set up your limited company and why it's really important as a property investor that you choose the right one. Welcome to Property Insight. I'm Neil Harding.
And I'm Mark Ashworth.
When you set up a limited company for the first time, it's really important that you choose the right SIC code. It's really important because if you're going to use mortgages, which most property investors will do, lenders will expect you to have the right one. There are certain ones to use. There are over 600 different SIC codes that are available when you set your company up, and you've got to choose the right one.
So just as an example then, I guess if you go onto the Companies House website, you can look for any business and it will have a description of the business, and that's basically what the SIC code is, right? It's the description of its activities.
Exactly, yeah. There are all sorts of different ones to use. Some of them sound quite strange and vague, and some of them sound very, very specific. We're going to kick things off by going through some of the main ones, two in particular, which I think most property investors need to know about. So there is the code 68100, buying and selling of own real estate. When would you use that? If you're a trading business and you are buying and selling property, in other words, flipping, if that's your strategy, and when you set your company up, that's what you know you're going to be doing. You're going to be trading, buying property, probably doing a refurbishment or renovation, and then selling it on at a profit, and you're doing that multiple times with a profit motive, then that's the code that you need to use, 68100. The other code that we want to talk about is 68209, which is letting and operating of own or leased real estate. It's a bit of a mouthful. Doesn't matter whether or not the property is furnished or unfurnished, but that is the one to use if you are setting up a portfolio of investment properties to let. So
interesting. So what happens, Neil, if you've got a scenario where generally you're buying stuff to keep, so you're a buy and hold long-term investor, and you do the odd flip, or let's say you buy a property with the intention of renting it out, but for whatever circumstances you decide in the end that you want to sell that on. How does that work?
Yeah, and that can happen, of course. So you might have 10 properties and suddenly you realise, actually, do you know what, this one hasn't performed very well, I want to sell it. Well, you'd recognise a profit on or a gain on the disposal recorded in your accounts. That fundamentally doesn't change the nature of your business. That's normal business for an investment company. Investment companies from time to time will offload a few of their assets, even if it's just because actually they realise that the market right now is really buoyant. Why not cash in? Why not sell? Like if you were doing gold and the price of gold was incredibly high, you might decide to crystallise some gains. Just makes perfect sense. So that doesn't change the nature of what you're doing. SIC code would be exactly the same as it was before, and you wouldn't change your SIC code for that. So that's normal.
Yep, and it's something I've experienced and never had an issue with my accountant over that thing. So we've sold, I think, a couple that in the end we decided to move on. Yep. So I guess the SIC code for the other option, which is the trading, this is where you might be buying 2 or 3 properties a year, doing them up and selling them on straight away. There are quite a number of developers in the space that do this, either by developing from the scratch, which obviously is a build to sell strategy. They would probably more likely have that trading SIC code. So I think it's the general overview and general activities that what HMRC want to know.
That's right. A couple of other ones to mention, which may be of interest to you. So 68310 is real estate agencies. So that's the one to use if you are an estate agent or if you're a deal sourcer and packager, which is in many ways an estate agent.
Or if you start up a company to manage your own portfolio. So you might have 10 to 20 properties, let's say. And rather than farming out the property management, you might want to have that set up.
There's a code 68320, which is management of real estate on a fee or contract basis. Some of these are a right mouthful.
So would you want that one?
So
you might want that one.
So there's that one, which is if your property company managing properties on behalf of a landlord for example, you're a letting agent, so that's the one to use for that. So those last two that we mentioned are trading businesses.
And just another question there, Neil. So do you have to specify this SIC code when you set up the company? If you set the company up, you might do it yourself, or you might ask your accountant to do it. But once you've set it up and you come to the realisation that you may not actually have the right SIC code, can you change that when it's done?
You can change it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not set in stone forever. It's not a case of, oh, I selected the wrong SIC code when I incorporated this company. It's the wrong one. I'm now going to have to liquidate this business and create a new one. It's not as catastrophic as that.
And and as an individual company, can you have more than one SIC code on one company?
You can. You can.
Excellent.
So sometimes people might think, surely that's just the easiest way to get around that problem, because if I've got both bases covered. Not always a straightforward answer as that, because sometimes lenders actually don't like you to have two SIC codes, because if there's a SIC code that suggests that you're a trading business that's buying and selling property on the one hand, and that same limited company has a SIC code that says, well, you're also an investment business, which means you're holding assets for the long term and you're buying and holding and renting them out, well, which one are you? And if you're doing both, we're not really clear on what's going on in that business. Some lenders quite simply, because they set their own criteria, it's their money, it's their criteria, will just say, well, no, we don't lend on that. You know, that is quite possible, or even if it's not now, it might be in the future. So there are advantages to keeping it simple. Even if it's not about mortgage availability, there are some tax implications about having both a trading business and an investment business within the same limited company. Tax for things like particularly inheritance tax. But that's definitely one for a conversation with you and your tax accountant to talk about. I personally think more often than not, it's cleanest and simplest to have one limited company as an investment business and one limited company as a trading business.
Yeah, I think that's generally good advice. Well, we hope that you found this video insightful, and if you have liked it, please like, subscribe and share the content so we can help reach more people. And we very much look forward to seeing you on the next one.